Hello, everyone. I'm Janice Kim, here to talk to you today about turtles and aliens. Without further ado, let's share. The learning paradigm says that it's through mistakes that we might learn. However, I think that the way one really learns is through pain. And the more pain, the more you learn. In this case, it was the result of one of the most embarrassing things in Go. Picture the scene. At the US Go Congress, playing pair Go, pro pair Go. And I blunder the easiest thing in the world. It was so embarrassing that people mentioned it to me 20 years later. But from that, I did, in fact, uncover the secrets of life and death. Namely, it's turtles all the way down. And they were probably brought by aliens. I can explain. The situation was similar to the upper right corner. I'm going to call that the Northeast from now on. And the idea was to capture these cutting stones. There's a black stone here. So it's not directly connected, but we generally think that whenever you have two stones and then a 1-point jump from that, that they are basically connected. So they're going to share liberties. And so that would be a way to extend liberties. And in this case, it couldn't be cut because you can capture the cutting stone. This problem and variations of it is a famous one, which some people call the bottle, and you can see it in various Joseki and things like that. But it's not so much a specific problem as it is demonstrating something very fundamental about connection and eyes. This is just a representation of it, but it was not this exact situation on the outside, but it doesn't matter. The point is, in capturing these two stones, what's the best way to do that when liberties matter? Not just straight counts, but how you fill them in, whose turn it is to play. Are there any shared liberties? So for this to share liberties with these two, it must be directly connected. And if it's directly connected, say there's a stone here, then you could count the number. Essentially, it's going to be a lot. You can 1, 2, 3, and many. So depending on this situation, it wouldn't matter if it's directly connected. So when looking at this as a liberty fight or a capturing race, you are limited in that you're going to need to cut. So this isn't so much cut first, ask questions later, as whenever you're cutting and polishing a shape into the position that you want, you're going to need to use sandstone. And that means that you're polishing it. You're not cutting and hacking away at something. You're polishing it, and a cut stone or a sacrifice stone, as you know, one rarely thinks of, for example, a piece of sandpaper as sacrifice paper, right? Although that would be kind of interesting. So here, this is the cut, because if there's no cut, if it shares liberties, it's not a capturing race in the particular situation that it is. So right off the bat, we can get into something. You can come up with proverbs like sacrifice one, sacrifice two, which you can see, like, I would have difficulty thinking how you could generally apply that. So I'm not sacrificing anything. So at this cut at the two point, you have A or B, and because you're going to drive it to the edge, you're using the capturing technique of driving to the edge. So you can do this to one point or that to one point. So this is a good place to visualize 3 moves ahead, because it will usually be the case that only one direction will, only A or B will work. And that's unusual enough, but might speak to the idea that you do need to visualize 3 moves ahead. Although I will find the theoretical underpinning for which way it is. But the thing that you're visualizing is, okay, if I drive it to the edge this way and white plays down, then I cannot play here or here, because it would be putting myself in Atari. Therefore, here. So if black were to capture this stone, that's a living group, a kind of cute little living group with the 1 point being an eye. So white plays down and then play here. So the cutting stones are captured now. So the question becomes, how many liberties is that? And because you have that sandstone in there, it's going to collapse. Whereas if it's directly connected, that's a lot of liberties, and it might involve approach liberties or liberties that you can never approach because there are eyes and toes and this kind of thing. So if white plays here, black takes. Here's the point where you might rush to say, oh, okay, I can throw in, and then black can't connect. And if black takes, I can connect here. And then if black tried to run out in some way, it wouldn't work because white could play here. And if I need to connect this, then white could capture it this way. But do notice that when you have this turtle, if there's some situation where the entire group is in jeopardy, just capturing these 3 stones doesn't matter. And in fact, this stone can get taken. This throw-in point is the place where the false eye might occur. So there are situations where white could just connect, and then filling in this liberty wouldn't help. But coming out, one might do it this way, and then you might not have enough liberties to connect. And it might be that you can catch more of it. And I do not remember the exact situation in the game because I have blocked this out of my mind. But it came from looking at this and then suddenly seeing something that I wasn't quite sure what I was seeing. It was as if, is it a turtle? Is it an alien? It was like a meow kind of feeling. And in that like frozen moment, I couldn't capture this. And you're frozen and everyone in the world is watching you fail at the and the worst thing is you're like letting down your teammate, and it was horrible. And I wondered, why didn't I see that? And I remember, people would say, oh, yeah, she's, probably rushed to, not a lot of experience, not maybe not that good at life and death, or, that's pretty basic. But I wanted to know why. This is how I will explain. Later on, when I saw people playing games that were very complicated, and the idea was, you want to make an eye. And so you make eye-like shapes, right? And this certainly looks like an eye, Tanuki. For this to be an eye, it needs to be directly connected. All the stones must be directly connected. So what that means is that there are 4 places where they might not be directly connected. And if you think about it, it's very similar to the beginning of the game with 4 corners, because even if it's your turn to play and you play 1 and white plays 2 and you play 3, white can falsify it. Even if it's your turn to play and you have 4 stones. If you play here, white can falsify it this way. So this diagonal severing, I call the alien, and this one I call the turtle. So you can see it here. Where this is going to be the false eye. And this is the point. Now, going back, why did I call it aliens and turtles? If you look at the initial sequence, but forget about this stone. Forget about that one as well. It looks like these two stones are difficult to capture because if white plays here, black can push out. And then most people would say, and you can't do that because there's a cut. That double hane, which most people will hesitate to do because of the cut, I was starting to call, excuse me, the staircase, because I think double hane doesn't convey enough to enough people, English speakers, to help them. It will end up with that same shape. And ultimately, what it is this shape. And this is what I call in volume 5 of Learn to Play Go, the alien symbol. That comes from, there was a 80s television series called V, in which the aliens had this insignia on their uniforms and on the sides of their ships. And so I was thinking, if aliens play Go, this is what they're trying to tell us. These 3 stones are the vital points of eye falsification, I guess. Hitting the head of 2, the eye stealing to Suji, where all throw in snapbacks, that kind of thing, and spoiling the bamboo. And you won't necessarily see it come, where it's going to be. But if you can identify this, you'll start to be able to handle life and death much more easily. And the way the turtle might come up, it's going to be leading turtles into aliens, but I could watch even Don level players struggle when it's very, very complicated, because it is not obvious at all that you can't make an eye from there. And the moment that hits you, the wheels come off the bus. So in the video that we'll be posting shortly, the hour and 14 minute long monster, which I'm going to edit into bite-sized chunks, at the end talks about the basic corner life and death position number 1. And I kind of mysteriously say, oh, it's an alien into a turtle, but it's not necessary to grasp this like, oh, I get it, boom, because this is what there is. My confusion from that moment stemmed from having I think probably another disadvantage of not speaking the language when I was learning to play Go. So I could only look at the shapes and I could only try to figure out what was going on because I didn't have terms for it. And when you don't have terms for things, you make up your own, and those have real resonance for you. And I recall a lot of times someone would say, oh, boom, she just sees, and what am I seeing? I'm seeing aliens or possibly turtles, but I'm presenting this as the endpoint of a lifetime of looking at Go. You probably could add to this to have your own personal way that this resonates for you. After really regretting the names that I had attached to things in childhood, like Mickey Mouse shape or Galaga or hey, it's an alien. Um, I had no term for turtle. And that was where my problem was coming from because, and it's just as simple as saying, it's the diagonal versus parallel, just like in the opening when they're even number. But if you look at life and death problems in your, well, I shouldn't even say problems because, you know, in your game, if you have something to hold on to, you'll know what to do. You at least know what to look for. Um, I see aliens. I have a sixth sense. Not that I can say sixth sense. While I made this video, I was going to keep it short by having pasta on to boil. I hope it's not overcooked. Thanks.